The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now, 865-243-TALK. That's 243-8255. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome to the Patrick Riggins Show. Sometimes I feel like the last man standing, that I may be standing here alone. And I know a lot of you out there probably feel the same way, but take solace in this. You are not standing alone. There are a lot of us out here, and we are starting to make ourselves known. Broadcasting our message of freedom and liberty is the radio station here in Knoxville that is reaching parts of 5 states and 2 time zones. It is none other than WNOX FM 100.3. We are blasting out 100,000 watts of RF power into the ether, disseminating our message of truth about the real American ideals that made this country great. Not only can you use your regular standard FM broadcast receiver to listen to this show, you can also take advantage of the wonderful invention of Al Gore called the Internet. Just bring up your web browser, type in www.wnoxfm.com. There you can monitor this show being sent out over the airwaves via the in-studio webcam here at American Freedom Station, Knoxville. That web address again is wnoxfm.com. Sitting here twirling the dials and pushing, actually standing here twirling the dial and pushing the buttons is our radio show producer extraordinaire, Tori. How's it going, Tori?
Hello.
Last hour that you have to work?
Nah, it's all right. I enjoy it. I enjoy being here.
I didn't say you didn't enjoy it. I just said the last hour.
Yes.
So you made the assumption.
You know when we assume.
Yeah. Yes. You
I do it quite a bit.
You make something.
I do that without assuming, but...
Well, of course, Tori is playing this coming week at the Well, correct?
Yes, actually, Saturday night. There we go. Saturday night.
He can multitask here, push buttons and talk.
Next Saturday at the Well, 3 of us are playing. It's us, Court Jar, a friend of mine's band, actually, Gorilla Sun. It's their show, their headline. We're playing right before them, and band called Phoenix Bloom is opening up. So all that starts around 9 o'clock at the Well on Kingston Pike, right after the Florida game. So come on down after UT beats Florida, have some drinks, and enjoy the show.
And the Well being right next to Mayo's, that shopping center right to the east of Mayo's.
Yeah, it's right next to Long's Drug Store. It's like if you go into the Long's Drug Store complex, it's the place that's got the stairs that go down into... the center of the earth, it seems like. Yeah, but it's a really nice, cool, clean place. It's not a dive or...
And it's right next to Lenny's.
Lenny's.
If you see Lenny's sub shop, it's right to the left of that.
Yeah, so once again, it's Court Jar, Gorilla Sun, and Phoenix Bloom next Saturday night.
And that's S-O-N or S-U-N?
S-U-N. And Gorilla, not like the animal. Gorilla like...
Oh, like freedom fighters.
Freedom fighters, yes.
Yes.
Not gorilla like... Big monkey.
Like beating your chest.
Yes.
Well, that doesn't much go with the sun either. So
they're a good band, though, man. Come on, check them out.
Yeah,
and Patrick will be there signing autographs this time. He wasn't there last time. I know the line was about a mile long to meet you, and you disappointed a lot of people. So putting you on the spot, you got to be there this week.
I will try to be there. I'll do my best to be there, and I'll bring a pen with lots of ink.
Yeah. So, a Sharpie.
A Sharpie, yes, to get all those autographs signed.
You know, girls come in, want you to sign a piece of paper.
Pieces of paper, that's what they usually ask. I'm not a rock guy like you. They ask rock stars to sign those things.
You're your own rock star, and that's all that matters. You're my rock star.
Up here in my little head.
You're my rock star.
Aww. That could start rumors.
Didn't mean it.
All right, thank you again for tuning in to the Patrick Riggins Show again this week. I am here to tell you the truth. I don't usually sugarcoat it, but if it'll help get it into your system. You see, even though sometimes you might not like how medicine tastes, it is good for you and will make you better. Along those same lines this week, I'd like to talk real quick about freedom and liberty and do we really want it in America these days? I ask this question because I look around during this election time and see the outright self-delusion of people devoted to parties who are not freedom and liberty minded, people who are not concerned with the future problems of this country. Heck, I don't even think they're concerned with the current problems either. For instance, just look at the budget numbers. We are rapidly approaching a point where we are going to run out of money. It isn't a matter of if, but when, and neither major political party is doing anything about it. And no, moving the problem on out into the future is not doing something about it. It is only delaying the inevitable. That's why I mentioned at the start of this show the feeling that I'm standing alone. But since I know a lot of people feel this way, I know I'm not standing alone. And you aren't either. It sure seems like it sometimes, though, but take heart. The Republican establishment would not have taken the steps they did at their convention if the people who supported candidates like Ron Paul were not becoming a major problem within the party. I use the word problem because we are a problem to the establishment and their big government knows best type of solutions. We are not a problem to the overall American ideal. We don't look to government for answers. We look to ourselves. And that is very frightening to people who like to tell others what to do. C.S. Lewis stated it really well, and I wanted to get this out last week, but we didn't have time. He said, of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. So you can think about that this week, and again, if you want to look it up, it's C.S. Lewis stated that. We're up on the first break of the show. When we come back, we'll be getting into Paul Ryan's speech this week, some stuff Mitt Romney talked about, and a couple other things. This is the Patrick Reagan Show. We'll be back after these messages.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Reagan Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the Patrick Reagan Show. Tori getting down to the intro.
The nitty-gritty.
You guys really should tune in on WNOXFM.com.
We have a good time.
A lot goes on in the studio that you don't hear through the microphone.
I just spend most of the hour trying to crack Patrick up.
Yeah.
Trying to make him laugh in the middle of his show.
Now, yeah, that's usually not real hard. So, anyway, I kind of alluded to this before in the last segment. We have Republican vice presidential candidate Paul Ryan gave a speech in Colorado this last week, and I want you to hear a few clips from it. Mr. Ryan is a veteran of Washington, and as such, deep down, I believe he believes government has the answers to people's problems, just like Mitt Romney does, just like Joe Biden does, just like Barack Obama does, and just like every bureaucrat in Washington and most of the government throughout this nation does. Here is a small morsel of truth you can munch on as we start off.
We also want to make sure that people have the skills they need to get the kinds of jobs and careers of the 21st century.
See, he wants to make sure you have the skills you need to get the job you want. How does that happen? Well, if he is going to make sure you have the skills, then you can infer from that he will be providing them. But Mr. Ryan isn't going to dig into his pocket to fund this sort of operation. Now, he's got money, but not that kind of money. He is going to reach into your pocket to fund it, because that is what government does. It takes money from you and gives it to someone else. You remember when you voted for that, don't you? You remember the vote we had a while back where we all decided we would chip in and pay for an education for anyone who wanted it. Oh, you don't remember that? Oh, yeah. It's because we didn't do it. Just in case you started to think about what he was saying, he said this is to let you know, he said this to kind of let you know he's on your side.
We believe in the promise of this country. We believe in the idea of this country.
Great. Him and Mitt believe in the ideas of this country. What might those be? Let's listen and find out.
What we are offering is a very clear contrast, a very clear choice. What kind of country do you want to have? What kind of people do we want to be? We want that American idea, that opportunity society with the safety net that's there to help people who can't help themselves, that's there to help people get back on their feet who are struggling.
Oh, okay. I am glad we got that cleared up. Their ideas are exactly the same as those in Washington and all governments all around the country. And even though they're the same as President Obama. In case you missed it, here's that clip again, just part of it.
That American idea, that opportunity society with the safety net that's there to help people who can't help themselves, that's there to help people get back on their feet who are struggling.
That American idea, that opportunity society with the safety net that's there to help people who can't help themselves, that's there to help people get back on their feet who are struggling. That same statement could have come out of the president's mouth or any other liberal Democrat who might be giving a speech. I've said this over and over. There is not a hill of beans difference between the two major parties or their candidates. The American idea is not an opportunity society with a safety net. That is why we are having the problems we have today. These guys just do not understand anything but their big government mindset. I don't think it is possible for them to even imagine any other solution other than one involving the government. The government is not responsible for providing anyone with a safety net. Keeping it simple, the reason is the government would have to take money from one person and give it to another to provide that net. Something that is blatantly un-American, or used to be anyway. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, if you haven't been told before. Me, nor anyone else, is responsible for providing for you. You are the only person responsible for that. I'm sorry if you're sick, disabled, or born with some kind of disadvantage. The plain and simple truth is, I'm not responsible for your predicament, so I shouldn't be held responsible for paying for it. That is the cold, hard truth of life. But having said that, I think there is a moral obligation for us to take care of one another as much as we can. But there is not a constitutional requirement for it. You absolutely have to know the difference. Otherwise, you start trying to legislate all sorts of things based on your moral compass, which may not be the same as others, and frequently isn't. Morals are not rights. Getting back to Mr. Ryan's speech, in this next clip, he describes what he thinks is government's role in this country.
Nothing is stopping you from meeting your destiny. Our job is to get the barriers out of your way.
So he is going to get the barriers out of your way. That is in direct conflict with his concept of the American idea of providing a safety net. How are you going to pay for that net? Through taxes. And taxes are a barrier, and a big one at that. In this next clip, he reassures the audience and the country they know what they are doing and what they stand for.
We know who we are. We know what we believe. We know what we need to do. And what we need is leadership.
Yes, we do need leadership. But neither the Democrats nor the Republicans are providing it in any of their candidates. They are all giving us the same lines. They are all standing for pretty much the same things. Here, Mr. Ryan tells us they are going to get back to our founding principles.
We are not going to try and replace our founding principles. We're going to reapply them.
Ah, good. We're getting back and reapplying the founding principle of supplying a safety net to everyone in this country. Y'all remember reading about when this country was founded. No one was promising us anything. But fortunately, the government was willing to tell everyone that it would work out okay. That we wouldn't have to work hard because no matter what, the government would be there to help us with a check if things didn't go our way. I remember reading the fond recollections of the pioneers telling their stories of courage and daring, and they had that inner self-confidence because they knew they had the government to fall back on when times got rough. Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett, all those great people owed their boldness and fearlessness to the fact the government was right there in case something happened. The government would pay for their health care to cure whatever sickness they might have caught out in the wild or fix any injury they might have received, fighting Indians or whatever. And if they couldn't provide for themselves, the good government was right there to help them along, to take care of them until their dying days. What a great sense of relief that must have been for all those early settlers. Of course, I'm being facetious, but I think I made my point. If Mr. Ryan truly believes the people of this country are owed a safety net, and that is one of the original American ideas, then he is either too ignorant to be in office, or he's just telling people what they want to hear. And if he's doing that, then he's no better than a liar or a charlatan. Again, someone not fit for office. And maybe even more so, given our current political climate. So, what does he really believe? Well, I don't know. Why doesn't someone call him out on this? Again, I don't know. I know why the media doesn't, because they agree with him. But I don't know why people support him when he clearly either doesn't know what made this country great, or does know yet refuses to acknowledge it. Either way, why vote for him and Mitt if this is what they're going to give us? Mitt wants to repeal and replace Obamacare. The repeal part is good, but the replace part is not. His running mate believes we should have a safety net for everyone. If you want to make a difference, vote in the presidential race for someone else, be it a write-in for Ron Paul, the Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson, or one of the other third-party candidates. Anyone but two major parties. The message will be sent to the major parties if one of the third-party candidates makes a good showing in the election. Or even if all the third-party people, if we lump them together and it shows a substantial number of people are dissatisfied with both major parties. The difference is in Congress anyway. I've talked about this over and over. It's Congress who makes the laws, Congress who can dictate what's actually going to happen. So what we need to do is elect good, freedom and liberty-loving candidates to Congress. Then use this presidential election to send your message of protest. Since you are essentially voting for the same people no matter which way you go, they cannot, the president cannot do anything, I said, without the approval of a strong Congress. And if we have a strong Congress, they will stand up to the president and their cronies anyway. So having this strong Congress is much more important than whatever celebrity, and that's how they're made out to be nowadays, but whichever celebrity ends up winning the presidential election. If they're going to do the same kind of things, then who cares who wins? Other than the people whose livelihoods depend on their candidate winning. And who cares what they think anyway? They are just suckerfish hanging on to the bigger fish trying to get some scraps of food because they don't want to work for it themselves. So, as I said, concentrate on Congress. get good people in Congress and use the presidential race to send the message, because the president can't get any of his stuff done without Congress going along with it. Well, we're up on the bottom of the hour here in the Patrick Reagan Show, halfway through already, speeding through. When we come back, we'll have some stuff on Mitt Romney, maybe Syria, maybe Iran. We'll see how it goes. This is Patrick Reagan's with the Patrick Reagan Show. We'll be back after these couple of messages.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Reagan Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Reagan.
Welcome back to the Patrick Reagan Show. If you're beating your head trying to figure out where you heard that song, it's from the Cocktail soundtrack.
No, just beating my head listening to it.
Yeah. Tori, not a fan of the happy music.
Yeah, this was one Patrick picked out.
Yeah, but you had the spirit fingers.
Oh, yeah.
And the happy
hands.
jazz hands and spirit fingers.
You really should watch at home on the camera.
Yeah. Well, I'm not so sure that is a good idea.
No.
Because someone may be recording that some way, and
if I end up on Facebook, I will find you.
That will end up. That's where that will end up.
Facebook, find it on YouTube.
Or YouTube.
Sorry.
Even worse, YouTube.
Long day.
It's just a happy song. No.
Are we done with it now?
Yeah.
Are we done?
You can fade it out. All right. Welcome back to the Patrick Reagan Show. This segment, we're going to talk a little bit about Mitt Romney, who is on Meet the Press doing an exclusive interview. And we have a few sound bites from him I'd like you to hear. Before we get to that, though, I get a lot of people asking me during the week when I'm out and about, and also through emails, well, why is it I seem to pick on the Republican candidates more than the Democrat ones? On this show, I try to be equally repulsive to both parties. But I know it may seem like I clam onto the Republicans' backs a little more. I guess it's because these guys are supposed to be the ones who are closest to my political views. And they aren't just Patrick's views. They are America's views. What we used to believe and work towards as Americans. What made us special in the world. Freedom and liberty, and along with those, individual responsibility. These aren't being reflected in our presidential candidates. Neither Democrat, as you would expect, but not on the Republican side either, which is what you wouldn't expect, ideally. But if you're a regular listener to this show, you know better. Both sides are out to rework America, and in the process, redefine American values and what made our country great. This interview, though, getting back to this, Mitt Romney was asked about Obamacare, and here was his answer.
I say we're going to replace Obamacare, and I'm replacing it with my own plan.
As you've heard over and over on this show, Mitt's idea is to replace Obamacare, not get the government out of health care, but to administrate it in the right way. Again, these guys are big government knows best people.
I'm not getting rid of all of health care reform. Of course, there are a number of things that I like in health care reform that I'm going to put in place.
See, Mitt likes health care reform, as long as he is the one calling the shots. As long as the Republicans are in charge of screwing up our health care system, well, that's okay. If the Democrats are the ones doing it, well, then that's just wrong. So we've established that Mitt wants the government interfering in the health care market. How does he plan on doing this?
One is to make sure that those with pre-existing conditions can get coverage.
He is going to assure those with pre-existing conditions they can get coverage. A couple of years ago, this was one of the biggest problems Republicans had with Obamacare. Now, all of a sudden, with their guy, it's okay. How do you think Mitt is going to assure those with pre-existing conditions they can get coverage through government regulations, of course. Doesn't sound too less government to me. By the way, here's a little note to Mitt, and I'm sure he listens to this show on a weekly basis. And if he doesn't, he posts to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Patrick Riggins Show and listens to the shows there, because I know he looks to me for advice and information. But here's a quick note to him. Pre-existing coverage is not insurance. Pre-existing coverage is called treatment. If the condition is pre-existing, how do you insure against it? It's already there. That's treatment of a condition. In other words, it is government-mandated health care without the government paying for it. I don't know how you can call it anything else. Incidentally, this is why listening to this radio show will help you remove the blinders and through all this double talk these politicians use. And also why you need to make sure your friends are listening as well. It is through this kind of education that we have a shot at getting this country turned around. But getting back to Mitt, here's his second point on this subject.
2 is to assure that the marketplace allows for individuals to have policies that cover their family up to whatever age they might like.
He is assuring something again, and when Mitt is saying the word assure, or any government person uses that word, it means requiring, which leads to more government regulation. He wants to assure the marketplace allows for individuals to have policies that cover their families up to whatever age they like. Using the word assure and the word marketplace in the same sentence shows he really likes government interference in the free market. And why wouldn't he? He certainly did it in Massachusetts. Why would we think doing it as president would be any surprise? Here's his third point.
I also want individuals to be able to buy insurance, health insurance, on their own as opposed to only being able to get it on a tax advantage basis through their company.
You know the way to do this, Mitt? Get the government out of the healthcare market. Did you not study this at Harvard? Oh, wait, he probably did, and he is doing exactly as he is taught. The Republicans and the Democrats both want to run your life. They want to have a say over everything you do. Why is that, you may ask? It is because they share the same core principles of government knows best. Mitt and Paul Ryan aren't the conservative bulwark they are portrayed to be. Or maybe they are if this is conservative thinking in this country today. This is why voting for Mitt and Barack isn't really any different. If I tell you we are going to Florida and we can take either the red car or the blue car, which would you pick? Either way, we're getting to the same destination. We'll just arrive in one car or the other. Although where these candidates are taking us is nowhere near as pleasurable or as nice as Florida. One more little soundbite, and this one has nothing to do with health care, but I thought it poignant nonetheless. It was still during the interview. And they were asked about what to do with Iran and how to stop them from developing nuclear weapons. Here was his answer.
It begins with crippling sanctions. That should have been put in place long ago.
Crippling sanctions. That is what we need to do. Because they worked so well with Cuba, didn't they? Oh, for an even better example, North Korea. For some common sense on this particular subject, let's listen to a few clips from Dr. Ron Paul, which I played on this show a little while back. Dr. Paul was addressing Congress about a bill currently before the House of Representatives. And here's what he had to say.
I think this bill would be better named if we called it Obsession with Iran Act 2012. Because this is what we continue to be doing, is obsessed with Iran and the idea that Iran is a threat to our national security.
And here are a few more.
Iran happens to be a third world nation. They have no significant Navy, Air Force, intercontinental ballistic missiles. The IAEA and our CIA said they're not on the verge of a nuclear weapon. It's so similar to what we went through in the early part of this last decade when we were beating the war drums to go to war against Iraq. And it was all a facade. There was no danger from Iraq. So this is what we're doing, beating the war drums once again. When you put on sanctions on a country, it's an act of war, and that's what this is all about. The first thing you do when war breaks out between two countries is you put sanctions on a country. You blockade the country. So this is an act of war. What would we do if somebody blockaded and put sanctions on us and prevented the importation of any product in this country? We'd be furious. We'd declare war. We'd go to war. So we are the antagonists. We're over there poking our nose in other people's affair, just looking for the chance to start another war. First it's Syria, then Iran. We have too many wars. We need to stop the wars. We don't have the money to fight these wars any longer.
Amen, Brother Paul. It is amazing how this man doesn't get total support from the Republicans. I can see why the establishment doesn't want him. He threatens their power. But how he doesn't receive across-the-board support from everyone else is beyond me. We're up here on the last segment, or last break before the last segment of the show. We'll be back here in a couple of minutes where we'll talk a little bit about 9/11 before we get off the show here. This is Patrick Riggins with the Patrick Riggins Show. We'll be back.
Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show. Playing a little court jar there. That's Tori on the drums.
Well, thank you.
Sounding really good. They'll be playing this Saturday night at the Well there on Kingston Pike, correct?
Yes. Next Saturday night.
9 o'clock?
Start 9:30, yeah.
Yeah, you guys are second.
Yes.
Yeah, so you ought to go down there and hear him right next to Lenny's Sub Shop, and it's the shopping center with Long's.
Yes.
Long's Drug Store. Way to add to the color commentary there.
You like that?
Tori, yes.
I'm just letting you talk. Yes. No, it's Phoenix Bloom will be playing first, then us Court Jar, and finishing up the night will be Gorilla Sun. So
get down there and listen to him.
Rock.
Yeah. Listen to Tori. You can see him on the webcam. Now you can see him live.
And Patrick will be there signing autographs.
I'll be there
all night,
signing autographs,
shaking hands, hugging babies,
cussing babies, whatever you want.
Did you say kissing or cussing?
I don't know. Me and kids don't get along too
cussing
well.
Babies.
So. Cussing babies. All right. Here in the last segment of the show, I'd like to address the upcoming anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attack on our country. This Tuesday will mark the 11th anniversary of this event, and while it is easy to rally around the flag and country, I'd like you to remember how successful terrorists really have been. A small success of theirs was the original attack in which they killed many innocent people. But the real achievement that they had has been crippling this country with huge amounts of war debt and war casualties, while simultaneously killing off our privacy, our freedoms, and our liberties. That's right, I meant to use that word. I said killing off our privacy, our freedoms, and our liberties. Because if they had merely been taken or temporarily suspended, there might be a chance at getting them back. But as I see it now, I just don't think that's going to happen unless we really pull together as Americans and demand it. Right now, we have two candidates running for office. We have other smaller parties running candidates, but in reality, there are only two with a shot at being president, neither of which really, truly believe in the intelligence of the average citizen. They don't believe you can make the important decisions in your life. They don't believe you can be trusted to plan ahead, that you cannot make the correct decisions concerning your money, your health, your environment, or anything. What I try to do on this radio show is motivate you, the listener, to stand up and demand your representatives in Congress that they stop this outright attack on America. And yes, it is an attack. Just like the terrorists attacked us, we are told, because they didn't like and still don't like our lifestyle, the American way of life. And what is that exactly? It's freedom, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Our government, meaning Congress and their proxies, have made it almost impossible to enjoy any of these things. These rights we are supposed to be able to relish because they are natural rights. Rights we enjoy because we are human, not because we are Americans, because we are human. Our American system of government is supposed to protect and preserve those rights, and frequently, that is why people get confused about them. They are not just American rights. They are natural human rights. Throughout history, governments and rulers have fought against these natural rights because recognizing and respecting them diminishes their power over others. Here in America, we formed a government to try and stop this sort of oppression, and we are now having it all over again. I guess in reality, from the founding, we have had problems with power-hungry politicians, but that is a topic for another show. For some reason, we have people in this country who have no problem with being oppressed. Of course, the ones in charge are all for oppression because they are the ones at the top who are trying to run everyone's life. But for the life of me, I cannot figure out why others down here in the trenches with us are so eager to sell out their fellow countrymen. But then again, we have always had traitors in every conflict who will try and buy power, gifts, or some other dispensation from those in charge. And usually they have no misgivings about purchasing these handouts with the blood of their fellow citizens if need be. Now, I think, and I don't know, I might be alone on this, but I don't think so. I think these people need to be called out. If you have friends, neighbors, co-workers who are actively supporting one of these candidates who are hostile towards the American ideal, you need to educate them in the error of their ways. It won't be easy. They will resist you because a lot of people don't want to admit they were wrong, or they've been duped, or haven't thought out their positions. If you don't want to risk losing a friend or making an enemy, just have them listen to this radio show for a few weeks. I guarantee if they listen with an open mind, they will be agreeing with you within a month. Now, it may sound cocky or arrogant, and I'm not trying to be. This radio show deals with issues head on. I don't sit here and make excuses or not address something because it would be inconsistent with what I'm saying on a weekly basis. The nice thing about being an American and believing in American ideals is that you are consistent. I frequently say I'm a libertarian, but the more I look at it, I would call it more of an original American, someone who stands for freedom and liberty of the individual. Believing the individual can make the best decision concerning their future and their country's future without a lot of so-called guidance or directives from a central government, or any government for that matter. No, it's freedom which has made this country great. This country used to mean total freedom for people living here, not just the citizens, but anyone living within our borders. With that freedom was the restriction to allow others their freedom as well. Abiding by that enabled this country to flourish as no other country in history has. The key is, and I mentioned this at the start of the show and pretty much have alluded to it throughout this whole show, will we fight to keep it? I hope over this coming week you will agree with me that it is worth the fight and you are willing to help us out with it. Get into the trenches and start getting this country turned around. We're up on the show here again. Just a really quick show here. It always goes by quickly. If you want more information about the show, you can go to facebook.com/Patrick Riggins Show. You can also go to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ again, Patrick Riggins Show. And there you can get all the archive shows and even this show probably tomorrow. Oh, and you can also email us at patrickrigginsshow@gmail.com. patrickrigginsshow@gmail.com. Join me next Sunday afternoon, where once again we'll talk about freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. This is Patrick Riggins, and we'll see you next Sunday afternoon at 4. Have a great week.
Join us again next week for a solid dose of truth on the Patrick Riggins Show, every Sunday from 4 to 5 p.m. Be there.